Hello and welcome to Swarajya Standard. Today we're going to talk about what seems like a change or an apparent change, some would say, in government's view on agriculture, at least ever since the second term began. Because if you look at the economic survey, the budget speech delivered by Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, and even the Independence Day speech by Prime Minister Modi, you'll see that they suggested or even outright stated their position that they'd like to go back to basics, as Ms. Sitharaman said, which is a signal to change how farming is done in India, or at least take steps towards that. And in particular, what was spoken about was zero budget natural farming. Now, this is a farming technique that is already sort of operational in some states, most dominantly in the southern states, but also in states like Himachal Pradesh. Now the government wants to sort of push down on it. What is the rationale behind this move, and why is the government wanting to push for adoption of this technique, and will it help the government achieve its goal of doubling farmer income by 2022, which is the most important question? So to discuss this, on today's episode, we have M.R. Subramani joining us. He's the executive editor of Swarajya magazine. He's a veteran reporter who has covered Indian agriculture for decades. So we'll pick his brain today on this topic. So Subramani, thank you so much for joining us today. Yeah, hi. My first question to you is, in the interest of viewers who may not either know or fully understand this concept of zero budget natural farming, could you please give us a sense of that?
Yeah, zero budget farming, it's not natural farming, it's zero budget farming, which means it doesn't mean nothing is used. The farmer will not spend anything on inputs like fertilizers and chemicals.
Okay.
And what happens is, instead of fertilizers and chemicals, these farmers will use what is available on the farm. Like, for example, the cow, they could use the cow's urine and the cow dung for pesticides or insecticides, because that is found to be a very good agent against insects and pests. So they will use that. Plus, the leaves would have fallen from the leaves and all. These are used to cover the roots and other things that will give it more moisture. This is the sort of thing that is done. So what practically people do is try and use the inputs or the produce that like leaves or the whatever cow's dung or this thing, that they are used for farming instead of insecticide or pesticide.
Right. And generally the technique is sort of like the pioneer is considered to be Subhash Palekar, but as far as I know, this technique is sort of based on traditional Indian farming techniques that date back a long time.
Yeah, this is a age-old method which farmers have tried earlier. But what has happened recently, people have shifted away from this natural farming. They have gone in for, particularly what I would want to mention is what the economic survey of the government said. Just before the budget, the economic survey was submitted in Parliament, and the economic survey said that the government would want the farmers to return to green roots than green revolution, which means they wanted farmers to get back to these natural methods.
Yes.
So this had been there, but what happened was, after the green revolution set in the late 1960s, people had forgotten these methods, because green revolution was mainly using more of insecticides and pesticides. That had led to some of the side effects, like soils got affected, they lost their they became a little they were losing the nutrients in the soil.
Right.
So, and there were over usage of insecticide, pesticides, over usage of even water. So all these things had led to a depletion even of the land nutrition.
Right. And the productivity as a result has probably suffered.
The productivity had become stagnancy. The productivity, what we saw initially, now there is productivity or the production is increasing, but there is a stagnancy as far as the productivity is concerned.
Right.
So that is why the government chose to go in for the zero budget farming.
Right. Now, sir, obviously this technique is already sort of operationalized in some states. There's training also going on, as Sitaraman herself pointed to. Is there any evidence that this actually is working effectively? Any research that probably points out if this is working?
See, as you said, Subhash Palekar himself had successfully done this in parts of Maharashtra.
Right.
They have done in parts of Karnataka. And what
Yeah.
I hear is Isha Yoga Center is also doing it in parts of Tamil Nadu. And there are
Right.
a couple of farmers in Pollachi in Coimbatore district who have been very successful. And more
Right.
importantly, the United Nations FAO.
Yes.
FAO is now recommending this, or they're backing zero budget farming.
Right, right. So internationally also there is a position on this technique. Are they favorable towards it?
Yes, the UN is recommending zero budget farming.
Right,
What I'm saying
right.
is the FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization.
Right, right. Now, there's obviously a criticism from some quarters about this technique. Some saying that you're taking agriculture back into the old days instead of moving ahead and basing it more and more on new scientific methods. What is your view on this? Do you concur with them, or
Uh,
what's
no,
your
actually,
view?
that is a particular lobby who are, who you could call the pesticide and insecticide
Right.
lobby. See,
Right.
when they are going to get into natural farming, the
Yeah.
the industries that are going to be immediately hit are insecticides and pesticides, because the usage will be there will be a recommendation to cut down the usage of pesticide and insecticide.
Right.
So that is why the criticism is coming in. But
Right.
on the other hand, I can tell you some examples even in Madhya Pradesh, where I had visited parts of Madhya Pradesh in early 2000, where farmers had grown tomato using this method. Like, they used cow dung, they used the cow urine, they used curd, or what they
Right.
they used curd, and they let that what they call is panchagavya.
I see. I
So
see.
they used it, and they said that they were getting a better better productivity in tomato, and they were saying that the insecticide or the attack of pests or insects was reduced, or even
Right.
almost nilly. That's what when I even visited some of them. So
Right, right, right. My final question to you, and which is probably the most important question from both the farmer's point of view and the government's point of view, is that does the government believe, and is it possible that moving to such a technique would sort of help the government along in achieving its goal of doubling farmer income by 2022?
yeah, definitely it will help, because the farmers' input cost will come down. They will
Okay.
be using less of pest and insecticide. Number one. Number two.
Okay.
Zero budget farming also recommends use of less water.
Right.
So the amount of money that a farmer could spend on his pump sets for diesels and other things would come down.
Right.
So
Right.
there are a lot of inputs that the farmers will reduce by going in for the zero budget farming.
Right, and especially water that you mentioned is, since we are in a water crisis now, I mean, and a lot of water gets sort of used on the farms, for instance.
Yeah, like
so that I'm sure.
what zero budget farming says is water vapor is important, not water. So
Right,
they even
right.
recommend watering the plants around noon, so that the water there will be more intake of water vapor rather than water. So
Wow.
that is what zero budget farming. And what importantly, there's one more thing which I would want to mention.
Yes.
The country also will gain indirectly, in the sense, because pesticides and insecticides, they use a lot of petroleum products.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right.
So we will be cutting a lot of money that we spend on petroleum products.
Right.
Even a small amount, which will definitely help the Indian government and the economy. Your foreign
Right.
exchange outgo will definitely come down.
All right, great. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us on this episode. And that's a wrap for today's episode of Swarajya Standard. I hope you were able to get a good picture of zero budget farming as explained by M.R. Subramani. We have stories written by Subramani on Swarajya, which you should definitely go and check out, www.swarajyamag.com. And while you're at it, if you like what we put out on our website, and if you like the videos that we put out on our YouTube channel, do please subscribe. Subscribe to the magazine, and please hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Your support will help us tremendously.